You're single, Jenny, you don't need a house this big. We're family, so of course it should be shared, right? My mother Diane's voice flowed casually from my smartphone speaker, light as a conversation about tomorrow's dinner. She knew perfectly well it was the day I was moving into my new home. Yet she said it over the phone like it was the most natural thing. An hour earlier, I'd pulled my car in front of the long-awaited glass-walled mansion perched on the slopes of Oakwood Hills. This was move-in day for my million-dollar sanctuary, the reward for 6 years of sweat-soaked, mud-stained work. This should have been a radiant moment. The moving truck arriving with my belongings, the symbolic start of a new chapter. Instead, what greeted me was something unimaginable. Parked in my driveway was an unfamiliar moving truck, and the workers hustling back and forth weren't carrying my things. A faded sofa, a gaudy gold display cabinet with atrocious taste. No doubt about it, the furniture belonged to my sister Lucy's house. More to the right. Don't scratch it. This is my new office and home, you know. That arrogant shout from the terrace belonged to my brother-in-law Steve, a self-proclaimed CEO whose business hadn't made a cent yet. He was barking orders as if this mansion had always been his. Through the living room's vast glass wall, I could see Lucy chasing her 3 children around. They were running across the solid wood floors I just custom finished, floors that still smelled of fresh wax, with their shoes on. I couldn't get out of the car. Before anger took over, a sharp sense of observation cut through their sheer selfishness. With trembling fingers, I pressed my phone's record button and quietly began documenting this unbelievable invasion. The moving checklist on my dashboard looked painfully absurd against this grotesque scene. Finally, I stepped out and walked one step, then another toward my sanctuary. "Hey, you there? You're in the way, move," one of the movers yelled, assuming I was just an outsider. I ignored him, strode through the front door, and marched straight into the living room. There, on the Italian quartz kitchen island I'd spent months selecting, sat greasy fast food bags. And beside them sat Lucy, holding a glass. "Oh, Jenny, you're here already. I was hoping to make it a surprise. Did Mom tell you?" Lucy greeted me with a beaming, unapologetic smile. "Lucy, what is going on? Why is your furniture in my house? Why are your kids running around inside?" My voice came out lower than I expected. "What do you mean? Didn't Mom explain? You weren't seriously planning to live alone in a house this big, were you? That's such a waste. We've been struggling. Our place doesn't have enough bedrooms. And Steve says to launch his new business, he needs an address that looks successful. We're family. It's natural to help each other, right?" Her tone made it sound like they were doing me a favor. Behind her, Lucy's children pressed mud-covered hands against the custom glass wall I'd just installed. "I never agreed to this. Take all the furniture outside now. Tell the movers to stop." When I said this firmly, Steve walked in from the terrace scowling. "Hey, Jenny, don't get so worked up. We're family, aren't we? Sure, you might pay the mortgage, but it's our job to make good use of this amazing environment. If I invite clients here, my business will take off. When it does, I'll even pay you some maintenance fees." Maintenance fees? I was speechless. The $1 million I'd earned working without sleep, being yelled at on construction sites, clawing my way up 1 cent at a time. To them it was just a prop for their business. They didn't see me as a person. I was a convenient wallet, a provider of empty rooms. Steve didn't seem to realize how shameless his words were. If anything, he looked smug, as if generously offering me a benefit. As I stood frozen in the living room, movers passed by carrying a massive, battered refrigerator from Lucy's house. Watching it come dangerously close to scraping my custom cabinets, I finally broke my silence. "Lucy, Steve, how did you even get in? I locked the front door myself last night, right after I got the keys from the realtor." At my question, Lucy stopped instructing the movers and smiled, a triumphant smile tinged with contempt. She pulled a single key from her pocket, dangling from a familiar keychain, and deliberately waved it in front of my eyes. "This key, I got it from Mom. She said you're so busy with work, you probably won't have time to prepare for the move. So we, your family, should go in first and get the house ready. It felt like I'd been struck in the head with a blunt object. That was the key I'd reluctantly handed to my mother weeks earlier after she'd persistently begged for it. "So I can help clean when you're not home and water your plants," she'd said, practically forcing me to give her a spare. I never imagined she'd hand it straight to Lucy and Steve and let them occupy my house before me on my own move-in day. With shaking hands, I called my mother. She picked up after 2 rings, her cheerful voice filling the speaker. "Oh, Ginny, have you arrived? Lucy and her family should be there helping." Surprised. Surprised? Why did you give Lucy my key? They're moving in without my permission. Make them stop. Now. At my near scream, her tone shifted into that of a parent lecturing a stubborn child. "Ginny, calm down. You really only think about yourself, don't you? You don't need a house that big. Maintaining it will be a burden. Lucy has 3 children, and Steve's business needs a respectable address. This is a chance for the whole family. It's incredibly selfish of you to monopolize that house." A chance? Have you forgotten how many times Lucy and Steve have failed? How much of your retirement savings they burned through the crypto crash? That fancy restaurant that went bankrupt in 3 months? Every time you asked me to pitch in too, didn't you? When I said that, Steve, listening nearby, turned bright red. He pointed at me aggressively. "Hey, don't drag up the past. That was just the market being unpredictable. It had nothing to do with my abilities. This time is different. My AI consulting business is catching Silicon Valley's attention. I can't meet them using some rundown rental address. I need the Oakwood Hills brand." Lucy stepped forward to back him up. "That's right, Jenny. Sharing this house is your natural duty as family. More than half the truck is unloaded, and we've started the kids' school transfer paperwork." "What are you talking about? This is my house. I paid for it." "No, Jenny. Even the money you earn comes from the fact that we raised you and paid for your education. That means your assets are the family's assets too. Lucy and Steve are already preparing to give up their current house. The facts are in place." With that, my mother hung up. In the suddenly silent living room, I watched Lucy and Steve casually discuss room layouts as if everything were settled. They had planned for my resistance from the start, moving in before I arrived, creating a situation too far along to undo. They were convinced I'd give in. This was the final form of years of exploitation, unfolding before my eyes. My job as a landscape architect isn't the elegant profession people imagine. Planting pretty flowers in neat beds. My battlefield has always been construction sites. Mud, dust, and towering machinery. In male-dominated environments, every difficult project left my hands rougher. Dirt permanently under my nails. I never took vacations. I never bought designer clothes. I saved every cent as funds to buy back my freedom. And Lucy and Steve, who called my success surplus family money? Steve called himself a visionary entrepreneur, but he was a vacuum cleaner, endlessly sucking up his in-laws' retirement savings. A few years ago, he poured tens of thousands into next-generation cryptocurrency mining. Then he opened an ultimate luxury vegan restaurant that shut down after 3 months. Each time my mother called, "Ginny, you have money. Lucy and Steve are just struggling with cash flow temporarily. Helping them is a natural investment for family. Once Steve succeeds, he'll pay you back many times over." My father's retirement money, saved over decades, was steadily drained for their reckless dreams. Now my parents' savings were nearly gone. Yet in their eyes, the successful daughter who worked hard and lived responsibly was worth less than the glamorous eldest daughter and son-in-law who dreamed big and failed repeatedly. I was always the family safety net. "Ginny is doing fine, but Lucy and Steve need us." That twisted love had cornered me for years. They never celebrated my independence. They resented it, seeing my owning a home and breaking free as a betrayal, as hoarding assets. Buying the Oakwood Hills house wasn't just a real estate purchase. It was the biggest gamble of my life, a permanent escape from their ecosystem of exploitation. "Hey, Jenny, are you listening?" Lucy's voice pulled me back. She tapped the custom quartz counter with dirty fingers. "I think this space is perfect for the kids' homework desks. You can just move your work equipment to the basement storage room. Right then, the final switch in my mind quietly flipped. They probably didn't notice the faint upward curve of my lips. They were convinced I was frozen in shock, that a single call from Mom had made me submit. Lucy cheerfully discussed furniture placement while Steve lounged in the bedroom he planned as his CEO suite, gazing smugly out the window. But what I'd learned over 6 years wasn't just how to work with soil and create beautiful landscapes. I'd learned a far colder discipline. Always assume the worst and build multiple layers of legal defense. In fact, weeks before the purchase closed, when my mother showed up relentlessly asking for a spare key, "I just want to help clean when you're not home," alarms blared in my head. I knew her patterns. If I refused, she'd cry and accuse me of not trusting family. If I stood my ground, she'd tell every relative I was a selfish, willful single woman. That was precisely why I smiled and said, "All right, Mom. That would be a big help," and handed her a key. But that key was not just a key. That same day, I visited the office of Peter Morgan, a highly skilled property attorney. "Mr. Morgan, there's a possibility my family will attempt to occupy my new home against my will. If that happens, I intend to show zero leniency. Please prepare a formal trespass warning and immediate eviction order in advance." I provided copies of the deed bearing only my name, bank statements proving I'd paid entirely with my own funds, and a signed affidavit stating no one else was permitted to enter under any circumstances. At that moment, that heavy envelope was in the bag over my shoulder. "Hey Jenny, are you listening? Steve says we should order catering tonight. We need a little housewarming party, right? You'll cover the bill, of course. It's a move-in celebration." Lucy peered into my face, already counting on me to pay. The moment I saw that expression, my internal waiting period ended. I didn't answer. Calmly, I took out my phone and tapped a speed dial number. Not a caterer, not my mother. The police station, and the direct line of Attorney Morgan, already briefed. "Yes, it's me. Yes, a structural violation has been identified. Please proceed immediately." As soon as I spoke, Steve turned with a puzzled look. "Hey, who are you talking to? A violation? Is something wrong with this house?" "Oh yes. A very big problem, Steve. Lucy." I reached into my bag and pulled out a pristine white envelope. The moment Lucy saw Morgan Law Offices printed on the front, the color drained from her face. "There's a rule in this house. Nothing exists here without my permission. Not even a piece of trash. You crossed that boundary." In the distance, sirens wailed, slicing through the quiet upscale neighborhood. Red lights reflected against the glass walls, drawing closer through the falling dusk. "What is this? What's going on?" Steve rushed to the window and froze. His fantasy of a successful man's mansion shattered as 3 uniformed officers stepped onto the lawn. A loud knock echoed. "Police, we received a report. Is anyone inside?" Before I could open the door, Lucy rushed forward. She forced a desperate smile and greeted them like a wronged citizen. "Oh, officers, thank goodness. There's been a suspicious person lurking. Well, this is my sister. She's a bit mentally unstable and is trying to interfere with our move. It's under control, we'll calm her down." She pointed at me, putting on a pitiful performance. The officer scanned the living room, the piles of old furniture, the confused movers, and me standing silently. "I'm the homeowner, Steve Watson, a newly relocated CEO here. I apologize for my sister-in-law causing trouble." Steve stepped forward boldly, even offering a handshake. The officer ignored his hand and locked eyes with me. "Are you the one who made the call?" "Yes." I stepped forward. From the envelope, I laid 3 documents on the table, quietly, deliberately, with undeniable finality. "My name is Jenny Ford. I am the sole legal owner of this property. These are notarized copies of the deed, proof the house was purchased entirely with my personal funds. And this," I held up the 3rd document, "is a formal notice of trespass and demand for immediate removal, signed by Attorney Morgan. Today, individuals explicitly denied permission took advantage of my absence, unlawfully entered, and moved their belongings inside. I demanded they leave and they refused. I am formally requesting police-enforced removal. The officer took the documents and read carefully. For several long minutes the room fell silent. I watched the color drain from Lucy's and Steve's faces. According to this deed, the sole owner is Jenny Ford. The officer looked up, his gaze cold and piercing. Your names do not appear anywhere. This is not your house. That can't be right. We got the key from our mother. We have a legitimate reason. Lucy screamed. The officer's voice dropped lower, sharper. Possession of a key does not establish ownership. Once the legal owner tells you to leave, remaining constitutes trespassing. Stop the movers and return all belongings to the truck. If you refuse, you will be arrested on the spot. Arrested? Steve whispered, trembling. In that instant, his pride as a so-called CEO shattered against the immovable wall of law. I watched their despair with icy calm. Move the items back now. Fail to comply, and you will be escorted to the station. The words cut sharply through the cold air. The movers, intimidated by the police, wasted no time. Eager to avoid trouble, they immediately began reloading the truck. Wait, we're not done. Stop! Lucy shrieked, half hysterical, trying to block them. The officer stepped between her and the workers. Ma'am, step back. They're making the correct decision. You should gather your personal belongings and exit immediately. Just then, a car screeched to a stop in the driveway. My mother jumped out and ran toward the house at full speed. Ginny, what do you think you're doing? She shouted, bursting inside. I came to check on the move and nearly had a heart attack seeing police cars. Call them off. Aren't you ashamed, dragging family matters into public? She glared and tried to snatch the deeds from my hands, but the officer stopped her. Mom, the one behaving shamefully isn't me. It's you. My voice remained calm. This is my house, my sanctuary, the one I paid for. You're the one who handed out the key without permission and let people break in like thieves. You created the need to call police by ignoring my warnings and trying to force a fait accompli. Thieves? How dare you speak to your mother like that? She turned to the officers, plastering on her practiced, refined smile. Officers, I'm terribly sorry. My daughter is under stress and isn't thinking clearly. This house was planned for our family's future. She purchased it on our behalf. In reality, it belongs to all of us. I'm the one who holds the key legitimately. The officer didn't twitch an eyebrow. Ma'am, these documents list only one owner, Jenny Ford. The owner has explicitly stated she does not permit entry. No matter who you gave the key to or why, that does not override legal ownership. All furniture inside constitutes evidence of unlawful occupation. Remove it immediately. That's impossible. You're lying. Jenny, call your father. He won't allow this. My mother's voice cracked into a shrill scream, echoing across the quiet luxury neighborhood. I saw neighbors peering through curtains. Officer, please, just wait. Taking everything out is humiliating. The neighbors are watching. Lucy yelled, her face burning red. The officer pointed calmly at his watch. If you're concerned about time, you'd better start helping yourselves. If everything isn't cleared in 15 minutes, you will be taken in for trespassing. This is not a threat. At that final ultimatum, Steve finally broke. Groaning, he grabbed the gaudy chair he'd forced inside and hurried it back to the truck like a man escaping. This was the structural collapse I'd intended. For years, in the closed system called family, they treated me as a convenient wallet, justifying selfishness with family bonds. Now that filthy dynamic was exposed in broad daylight, under police authority and the cold, judging eyes of the neighborhood. Lucy noticed wives watching from windows and hurriedly hid her face, shoving her children's scattered toys into trash bags. The pride of the woman who declared hours earlier, "This house belongs to the family," was completely gone. Ginny, you're truly frightening. What are you doing, putting your own family through this? In her eyes, I was no longer her daughter, only a wicked woman who'd turned her back on family. I only protected myself, Mom. From today, I can finally live in peace. There will be no more uninvited guests in my life. No more parasites trying to steal the fruits of my labor. Parasites? I loved you and raised you. The love you talk about always came with a price. You funneled my money into covering Steve's failures. You took my time to raise Lucy's children. You tried to use my home to satisfy their vanity. That isn't love, it's exploitation. And there will be no more exploiting me. I pulled another document from my bag. This is a draft of a no-contact order issued through Attorney Morgan, addressed to all of you. It will be formally served tomorrow. If any of you set foot on my property again or harass me by phone or message even once, I will take immediate legal action. This is your final warning. My mother stared in disbelief, her strength draining as if she might collapse. The last box was loaded, and the truck's rear gate slammed shut with a harsh metallic bang. Steve and Lucy didn't even have the dignity to hurl a final insult. They climbed into their car and drove off. True silence finally settled over the house. Then my phone vibrated violently. The screen read, "Dad. Ginny, have you lost your mind? Calling police on your sister and her young children? You're the lowest. The story that you sold out your family has already spread through the relatives. Call Lucy back and apologize." It was a declaration of exile and a threat, wielding the weapon he believed I feared most, public opinion. The old me would have burned with guilt. Instead, I exhaled slowly and began moving my fingers. I blocked every single family contact. A few days later, physical defenses were complete too. All recovered spare keys were destroyed. At the front door, I installed a top-tier biometric security system. Only my fingerprint and iris could grant access. Through Attorney Morgan, I formally served every family member with a legally binding no-contact order. If they set foot on my property again, they'd be arrested on the spot. No loopholes. No escape. Months passed. Through relatives, I heard how things turned out. Lucy and Steve, the couple who tried to force their way in by creating a fait accompli, moved into a rundown cheap apartment on the outskirts of town. Steve's next-generation business collapsed completely after word spread among investors that he'd caused a police incident in an upscale neighborhood. My parents, too, reaped what they'd sown. After years of sacrificing one daughter for the others, they were isolated in their community, whispered about as parents disgraced by the very daughter they exploited. As for me, I now live in my million-dollar sanctuary with my beloved dog, Max. The foundation of my life will never shake again. I no longer need to carve pieces out of myself to meet others' expectations. I no longer need to sacrifice my resources to repair a broken family. A massive glass wall stretches from floor to ceiling. Every inch of this clear, open view is proof of the freedom I claimed with my own hands.